This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, we have a recording begun, and the April Executive Committee for the 22nd has begun. We have a quorum by first standard, but not by the second standard. So any action items or recommendations may come out via an e-vote or some other electronic follow-up with other members of the executive committee. Is that accurate, Michael?
Yes, sir.
Very good. Is anyone from the public wanting to speak? And if so, they need to fill out a little form or notify our director.
I had not received any.
Okay.
That sent to me too. Yes.
All right. Well, then that can take us to the agenda. We have a full agenda, and that's any changes that need to be made, Michael.
I don't believe so. If I could, as I did state in the email I sent out, it was not my intent today to discuss, or to vote on any of these because we are heavy on new policy proposals, and it was my intent just as a presentation, and then to begin discussing these. And also, I also wanted to add, Dr. Harding, that if any member would like an in-depth or to go through them in depth, then I'm more than willing to schedule an appointment, and Eric and I could go through any of these, step by step for any member.
Okay, very good. And we should probably send those out in manageable pieces, Michael. Okay, maybe like 3 at a time kind of thing with like 3 day spacing. And in order for us to get ready that we could approve it in May with the full agenda, with the full committee, so that the board could vote and be prepared at the June meeting at the Family Cafe.
Absolutely. What I'd like to do then with that action item, Eric, since you are in charge of the bylaws, if you could handle that. And then also Whitney, since if you could handle the 2 procurement policies in that, sending those out when we get there,
Okay.
just because, and then we can do the internal stuff. I mean,
You just only want me to send the 2 procurement.
yeah, but we'll talk about the timeline after this. I was just wanting to, okay?
Does that make sense, Michael, though? Because
Absolutely.
if we found out 14 items, that's just going to be like, oh my God.
Oh, absolutely. I think that's as you can see, we do have a lot, and I do think that is probably the best way of doing this because it is a lot of information.
Right. And then you guys map it out based on the thing, the dates, and backdate it and get everybody ready to play ball for the May meeting. And then that way we can get it out post hoc May to get it to the members before the June.
Yeah, I know I have a meeting with my leadership team, basically it's the staff that's on here on Wednesday. And so we'll do the action plans from there because this was on the agenda for that meeting.
And I would hold at least 10 or 15 minutes per item on the new policies during the board meeting in case there needs to be some wordsmithing or changes on the fly before a final vote.
That's a good point.
Does that mean ATAC? Is the board is meeting? I thought ATAC was just meeting in July.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear that, whoever was speaking.
I'm sorry, JR. This was Whitney. I was just clarifying if the board or the Assistive Technology Advisory Committee was meeting in June. I thought it was just the ATAC.
Right, no, it's the full outfit.
Thank you.
Right, okay. All right, Michael. So going back then, could we quickly, we get minutes we can't approve, and so old business. So
Uh,
minutes.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we have reserve policy, credit cards, inviting the former co-chair, and then board member job description. So
Yeah.
you want to tackle those one at a time.
Yes. I did. We did. As you can see, we did. We do have a draft operating reserve policy, and basically, again, this right here just this right here codifies our conversation. It is roughly a 3-page policy. It only has one sentence that goes on the next page, and it reinforces again the idea that our goal is to have our target amount is the amount that is equal to 1/4 of the average of reoccurring operating costs. And so I know that we don't have the policy yet in place, but Whitney and her judicious oversight of our funds. Whitney, would you please inform Dr. Harding of your actions with this, because it's absolutely fantastic.
So this is Whitney. We were able to move the total amount for one GR invoice, which is our general revenue contract with vocational rehabilitation. It totaled about 111,000. Plus, we were able to move a little bit from our reserve capital city bank account. We moved 50,000, totaling 161,000. We were able to move in the unrestricted investment funds.
Well, that's a significant leap out the front door.
Oh, absolutely. The other
So,
thing, if I could,
Michael, how close does that get us to our 90-day or 1/4 of operating capital?
I didn't look that figure up. I forgot.
So that's the total of one contract. We still have the HHS contract with Voc Rehab, which is 175,000. Plus our NHLP program runs about 50,000 per quarter of expenses. So we'd have roughly that 175 plus the 50,000 to still move over.
So we another $225,000 to go.
Yes, sir.
Right, and would that be, say, a 3-year time window or a 5-year time window to meet that?
I anticipate that we'll be able to move the HHS total of 175,000 over by the end of this fiscal year, if not this quarter. That is because since we were behind on the invoices before and we kind of had to float through what cash flow we had on hand, it ended up being that we got 2 quarters worth of invoices paid at once, which put us over our 250,000 FDIC threshold, which we have a policy that we want to keep anything in the bank under 250,000 since it's not insured over that. So this is really actually a silver lining from the delay in those payments, is that we were able to make things work, and now that we're being paid on time, we're pretty much ahead in invoice. So that's why we're stockpiling those over into investments in the meantime.
Okay, and does our policy speak to finding on a monthly basis or a quarterly basis 3%, 4%, 5% of our billable income to move over into that reserve fund, rather than, I mean, this was a gift horse. Okay, so how do we move forward after these 2 gift horses that you speak of?
Well, the draft policy states that once we set, once we have a target reserve goal, and that is that 1/4, then the obligation is for Whitney and Rebecca just to report with each financials that we are maintaining that target reserve.
Okay. Well, that's fantastic. But now it sounds like maybe sometime in the future our aspirations could be higher and maybe one day own our own building and other things like that.
That sounds good. Yeah, but I mean, right now, basically, as the operating reserve is written, it was tailor made to the specific discussions that the executive committee had with the goal of that one quarter.
Okay. Well, that sounds like we're going to achieve that by the end of October or October 2019. Whitney, is that correct?
We'll probably have about 80% of the way there, JR. The stuff that's going to be a little bit harder is the reserve for NHLP, which begs the question on if we need to reserve that funding amount, which is about $50,000 per quarter. Actually, it might be a little bit more. But since that's a direct drawdown, we may not want to move that over. So I guess it just depends on looking at our programs specifically. But we will have the full vocational rehabilitation contracts moved over by the end of the fiscal year.
Okay. Well, then maybe make a note and revisit kind of our success and where we are, because the New Horizon really should be able to stand on its own two legs. And we shouldn't have to hold that, but that's something the executive committee ought to talk about in the full board.
Yes, sir.
Mm-hmm. And then some more aspirational goals about things like maybe our own building one day or other enhancements that might be able to come from, squirreling away a percentage point or two every quarter.
Yes, sir. I definitely think we should have that discussion as we move forward.
Right. Well, then please chew on that with other members of the leadership team and, make some ideas for us. Okay.
Will do.
All right. Very good. Credit card updates.
Whitney has done her due diligence, and we actually have the applications in process now. I believe the only thing that we're waiting on is just for some of the staff here to put some personal information in. And so once that gets completed, then we'll go ahead and shut down the P cards. Or we're not going to shut them down. We're just not going to use them anymore. Is that what you decided, Whitney?
We will eventually.
Oh, you will, but that's not urgent. Basically, you're going to confiscate them.
I can.
When we get.
I don't think we've discussed that so far.
Okay, but yeah, it's in play, and it'll be finished probably within a month.
Right. Well, if we're not using the P cards, wouldn't that offer a potential liability or a risk if they're just sitting there in a lockbox or something?
Yes, and I know mine has mine's expired, and we haven't gone back and done mine. But the good thing about it is they don't charge us for non-usage, and so. But yes, you're right. It would be a risk, and those would need to be destroyed, and the account's closed.
Right. Well, that sounds like maybe some updates for the next executive committee meeting. So what kind of interest or cash back program are we looking at?
It's a 1.5% cash back on all purchases. And I believe the interest varies. Right now, we haven't had any issue with paying off the cards every single month, but it will just depend on when we submit that application on what they view our business credit as.
Very good. Okay.
How much do we average per month in a credit card? Around 1,000, 1,100?
It's probably closer to 3,000, but that's not including the P cards. The P cards average anywhere from 3,000 to 5,000.
That's good.
It's been a little bit lower as we've gotten in our group. But.
Okay. But there is reoccurring. So we do have reoccurring expenses that will give us cash back on a reoccurring basis.
Absolutely.
Right. Well, you see, and that kind of interest payment or something could be part of the dollars that get added to our rainy day fund.
That'd be 1.5%.
That's a very good point, JR. Thank you for
That
mentioning that.
is. That's why he makes the big bucks.
Right. And then maybe we could also use some of that money for activities with our regional partners and some kind of, lunch appreciations or something like that.
That is something we have discussed internally, of using that money that way.
And, maybe use it a little bit of both. But you follow me? We can always move dollars, but the goal is to have adequate flexible dollars. Very good. Okay, so can we get a formal letter to invite Carla?
Yes, I've spoken to her about coming, and that right now she thinks that she will be able to come. She doesn't foresee any issues. And so, but yes, put an action item that, we'll write a letter and, to have in. And JR, I can get you to sign it. I can drop it by, or if you want to e-sign it, I can do that too.
Well, either way is fine by me. Okay. And have we gotten something appropriate for her?
Not yet, but I know with co-chairs in the past, what we have done is we've gotten them a gavel, plaque, and then it also has the date of service that they were co-chairs.
Well, nice. Okay. And
Matt, what is that? What is that vendor that we use just off of St. Augustine?
Awards for you.
Awards for You does it, JR.
right. Yes, they're a good outfit. Right. Very good. And then once we have confirmation of her participation, could we plan some evening or lunch thing and make a big to-do about it?
Yeah, we do have a dinner planned, and so I hadn't extended that to her, but I'll see when if she could come to that. I know that in our family cafe meetings, just because she's so knowledgeable, we were wanting to see if she would volunteer her time with the booth, because she does a pretty good job, at our booth. So her hands would be, her. Being at Family Cafe would be a benefit both ways for this and also for the services.
Oh, very good. And we're going to cover her expense, right?
Yes.
Okay. And there's no issues with that.
Nope. Because as long as we document it in which that she was providing service, and so we only have to justify it on the travel reimbursement.
Okay. All right.
Or have a contract.
Anything else on the Carla issue?
What?
Did we lose somebody?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. Well, I'll reach out to her again, because I know I've spoken to her probably around 3 weeks ago before I had to take off.
Okay, well, let's make sure we have a room for her and stuff so she's not driving back and forth every day.
Yeah, plenty of room. Yeah.
Okay, and then just whoever's planning that, I do have a room held in my name already.
Okay.
Okay, at the $99 rate.
Were you letting us know that you already had one, JR, or that we need to supply you one?
That I already have one.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. And if you wanted to put it on the master account for that Wednesday night, that's fine. Right. But some of my bill will be covered by Florida State since I am presenting at the cafe.
What you mentioned at Floridians.
Okay, we will make a note of that.
Okay. All right. What about the board job descriptions? Where are we there?
They're completed. I just, of all the stuff, I can't believe it. That's the one thing I didn't upload. But I know since we've been doing interviews, those have been shared with the, those have been shared with the interviewees. And so I will actually send it out as an action item after this, either today or tomorrow. I just, since we do have them, and so I just forgot to upload them with all of these documents.
Okay. All right. So that handles our old business. All right. Moving into new business, the review of the 990.
The review, I mean, we actually did a side-by-side comparison from last year to this year. And in terms of, from going from one year to the next, it's really not that different. In fact, as long as I've been executive director, it's stayed roughly the same. One of the things that we can see on here is some of the, the late payments from VR, because we do bill out. Our contract ends, at the end of the month, and so we do have some accounts receivable that that are logged, and so, but roughly, we do have a little bit higher, a little bit higher loss from last year, and roughly a lot of that is part of the unrealized gains and losses. And so, but in terms of, the loan program and all of our other contracts, they basically remain the same. I do know that Mark Payne, when he did talk to me and send this over, he was very, very impressed because the direct loan had actually earned 15% interest, according to, the audit in the 990. And so he said that was definitely, moving in a good track.
Well, good. And how much did the cost of our 990 go up because of the taxes in the tax code?
It's really around the same as it was last year, the total amount. However, I'm holding off on the last payment just because I need to talk to Mark about it, because I wanted to talk to him beforehand, but he never got with me. He never got back to me. And so I can tell you that the amount that we have to pay, for this audit firm, to me, is a lot higher than we need to pay. And I think we're getting gouged a little bit, to be honest with you.
Or when was the last time we put the audit on the street for a bid?
We haven't since I've been here, and I know that was something that we've talked about doing this year. And I know that in one of the policies, in the best practice policy, that was one of the things that was listed on the template, but I did not change anything. And so I do feel that that's probably a best practice, that we do need to put that out for an RFP, probably. And I'll leave it to Rebecca for her professional opinion about this. I'm thinking about every 3 to 5 years, Rebecca. Does that sound
right?
Yeah, that sounds reasonable, Michael.
JR, can you repeat yourself? You were breaking up a little bit.
I was saying, to my knowledge, it was about every 3 to 5 years.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. And so I know that again, as I said, in the best practice, policy, it does state that we will do a.
We got bad audio here.
Yeah. I'm sorry. It does state that we will be doing that we do need to have an audit, and that there is actually an audit policy too. And so that's something that we need to probably put in there. The other thing and I've actually had board members ask me this, is, and I know my predecessor did this one time, should we, should all of our contracts over a certain amount go out for RFP on a regular basis or a rotating basis? Because, I mean, that's something that, again, I think that's best practice, and that, we definitely need to do that. And so, but again, I'm just, raising this, here, since we are talking about, basically we're talking about a contract over $10,000.
Well, the answer, at least for the audit and the 990, those should go out every couple of years, in my opinion. Other contracts, unless there is a specific goal or a long-range benefit, we should always test the waters, unless the board has overridden it for a particular objective.
Yeah, I'd never brought it to, the board. However, again, this is something that I have, has been brought up to me with some of our, contracts over a certain amount. And so, and if I could, Rebecca, I mean, again, since you're our independent CPA, I mean, is that best practice again on certain contracts? Just at least put, testing the water or whatever the nomenclature is.
Yeah, I think it's prudent to do it just to make sure you're not in the situation you are with the audit, where it's just becoming so expensive and you could probably get it done for lesser. So I do think that's a good best practice to have.
And just let them know that this isn't personal. We just we need to test the waters. Competition is good, and you don't want your auditors or your CPA folks to get too comfortable.
Oh, well, and that's one of the things that, and we discussed it at our leadership lunch. I mean, when we, if we did change auditors, I mean, there's a little bit of, it's nice that when you do have a company that is familiar, with your, with your business. However, that's one of the things that, when we send an RFP out, is in particular for auditing, is that we were thinking about, even before the audit commences, is to have a series of meetings in which we onboard the audit firm to where when they come over for the audit, they're not being exposed to us the first time.
Well, right, and that could help lower the expense, or say maybe the first year there's a built-in buffer, and then the next 2, 3, 4 years it drops by 5% or something.
Yes, because I mean that's one of the, I mean that is the worst thing about changing audit firms is, to me, and I've only done it once here, is that first year you change it, they're having to learn everything about the business.
Well, I think let's make that an action item for the May executive committee about establishing the policy of $10,000 or more, and a standard practice for the audits.
I'll make sure, JR, to go through these and to put it in both policies, the best practice policy as well as the audit policy, putting that out for bid.
Right. Okay. Well, is there anything else then? Do we need my signature on this?
On the 990?
Yes.
This right here is one of the things I think that we need to send out for a vote to the executive committee, just because, I mean, it needs to go out to a vote. It needs to be approved.
Right. Well, make that one the priority, because it's, we missed April 15.
Yeah. know if we're on that.
And we can't have late fees, so that needs to go out this week.
Yeah, I don't know if that is with us, but I know Mark automatically files an extension for us because of when our audit hits. And so I
believe it says it's extended until May 15th, Michael.
Okay. Thank you, Rebecca.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And that, you see, and we need to do better there too as well, Michael, is that costs money for them to file that extension.
Well, and again, I know in the audit policy, we do state that basically when it starts is, a certain time frame after our fiscal year ends. And so with the new policy, if it is adopted, then I feel that will be taken care of.
All right. All right. Well, mark those as some of your own internal performance issues, okay? All right. Now we got a bunch of new policy presentations. Is there a way we can kind of block these, from the strategic planning risk conflict and then move down, kind of give me some quick summaries there, and then the idea of sending them out in batches of 3 or 4 for people to look at and give them, say about 5 business days to vote.
Yeah. Basically, when we were going through this, there was certain policies that we should have in place just for best practice, and so those should probably go out first. And those include risk management, conflict of interest, joint ventures, the whistleblower, and protected disclosure policy. And there may be 1 or 2 other ones, just going through here that I just can't remember. But executive director compensation policy. And those are the ones that I think are best practice. 2 other ones that are kind of urgent, but we do have a little bit of a leeway, is the procurement policies. And I do say procurement policies, and Rebecca, I'm sorry we hadn't had a chance to talk about this, but it wasn't a finding, but what was the terminology that Jason used?
Segregation of duties.
Well, no, about the procurement policy. We were like grandfathered or given a waiver for a year.
Something like that.
And so basically the procurement policies, why I did 2 of them is, one is just a basic procurement policy that very typical nonprofits have. Paul sent us an example, and I had 2 other examples, and they're almost verbatim. And so that is that policy. The other policy is procurement policy is the procurement policy for federal funds, and it needs a little bit more teeth to it than just a basic policy, and it needs to really comply with the super circular. And so this right here is the one that really specifies when the procedures that we need to take when we do a contract. And so this right here, I mean, it actually, this policy here is verbatim from what the feds gave out in the federal resolution, but it's not the federal resolution. I can't remember what it was called, but I did download it. If anybody wanted to see it, and it is in our documents. And so it's very technical. However, again, it mimics exactly what we need to do in terms of when we receive federal funds.
Maybe differentiate them in your notes here, because where you have where is it? It's procurement, and then the other one, it's labeled. So one is general procurement. Now I'm lost here.
Yeah, if you're looking at the agenda, and I actually moved around here. Sorry about that. Oh. I think it's agenda number, item number 14 under new business. It's new business B, new policies, presentations, and the number is 14. And basically it's 215 federal funds procurement policy and 210 procurement policy. And so, but yeah, I could put general procurement on there. One of the things that we did do in that policy is right now, the threshold for getting 2 signatures is 12,500 or just 12,000.
12,000.
We actually, because of all of the policies that I've seen for other nonprofits, it actually reduced that to 10,000. And so that policy actually reduces that to 10,000. And it does state in the new policy or the draft policy that the 2 signatures for items over 10,000 are the ED and the DD.
Okay. Well then, and then we have the pieces under section C for the ED, the anti-harassment, nepotism, due process, disqualification. Those, Michael, can those get done before May? And you know, some time out for some folks.
Yeah, let's see here. The equal employment, most of those are, I just need to polish up in the format that the others are in. The one for executive director is actually already in the board notebook. And so, however, again, best practice states that needs to be pulled out for a, as a policy, and that includes hiring and firing and some other, some other activities that correspond to the director. The disqualification of members is also in that same document, and we just need to pull it out. With all of the 22 or 23 ones that we had done, time just ran out on getting those into the correct format.
Right. Well, those seem to, need to bump up the priority list a little bit. So can we get all, 20 of these or in time for our June meeting, or do we need to break these up and prioritize them and have half of them kind of get cleaned up at the September, October face-to-face meeting?
Yeah, no, we can have them all ready to go, and it'll be a total with those 6, a total of 30.
Right.
And so, actually might be 31 because it starts at 200 and goes, and it'll be, 200 to 230. So, but yeah, I did the bulk of the work in 3 sets of times. And so, like I said, those 4 are basically done. I haven't formatted them. And so the other 2 are just, I need to pull out of that one book. And so they're basically written. What I've been doing is going in, and anything that's in passive voice, I've actually been changing it to active voice.
Right. Well, good, Michael. I'm just thinking the amount of time your board members have to read all of this.
Yeah.
And where's the policy committee on this?
We don't have a policy committee.
Right.
I mean, basically what we've been doing in the past historically is, there being a policy that's needed. Staff had drafted it and sent it, to the executive committee for review. And then it goes
Well,
from there.
that's where I'm going, Michael, is 30 of these to be reviewed by your board in time for the June approval could be a lot. So
Yeah.
let's get this moving. Okay. All right. And it has staff reviewed them, and are they happy with them, at least for the first 14?
We're actually doing that on Friday. I have, I have mentioned to them, they actually have had access to them, but in terms of a meeting in which we've gone through them, we haven't, met and gone through them yet. But they have been available on the server as I've been going through drafting them.
Right. Well, maybe assign some staff members to follow in behind you, okay, Michael? Because I think it would be appropriate to ensure that they've all reviewed and they're all quite comfortable with them as well.
I think we should have probably a meeting on Wednesday and do that.
I'm not here, but I'll look this up.
Because these are, this is the core of the organization. This is who we represent, what we represent, and what courses of actions will occur should things steer left or right.
Yeah, I think in terms of our last meeting to now, I mean, the drafting of 25 policies or so was a yeoman's task. And so, I mean, in terms of just the action items that we had in the last meeting to this meeting, I think,
Right.
has been.
I'm not disagreeing there. I just want to make sure everybody's comfortable with these because it's a family organization and the family's got to look after the family.
Oh, I understand. Yeah. And we actually have, again, that meeting on Wednesday already. But I have offered, I mean, and they haven't been in hiding and stuff. They've been on the server, and I have been mentioning them in various meetings that we've had, staff and leadership meetings here for the last 6 weeks.
Okay. All right. Well, so what's then to review one more time? How are we going to send these 30 out for board input and approval?
Well, we're going to talk about it on at our meeting on Wednesday, and then prioritize, because I think the ones that are listed in the federal regs that we need to have with best practice probably should go out first, and then after that, send out 3 to 5 at a time. And so I think after that, I think that's a really good plan, because again, it is a lot to consume. I know it was a lot, doing the research and trying to get everything down. And so, but yeah, it's definitely a lot. But I think that those ones that are best practice need to go out, first. And, some of those will be kind of easy to review, because I'm looking at some of, I know the joint ventures policy, I believe, is a page. And basically it states that any joint ventures that we go into, that we need to ensure that our 501c3 status is not affected.
Right. Okay. All right. Well, then that takes us down. So we've got our new policy on 1 through 14 covered. You're updating C 1 through 6. And then we've got our D 1 through 3. right?
Yeah, I actually moved those because I actually was able to get finished through some of those, and so I moved some of those Ds are up in the other ones, the ones that I sent out.
Okay. All right,
Yep.
and then that gets us to some standing items of our financials, our membership, public comment, and next meeting in the EDPs.
Yeah.
Right.
With
So,
Paul here, I mean, it's hard, to talk about the financials, but I'm sure Rebecca probably could give a general Rebecca or Whitney could get a general overview of how March looked.
Yeah, Michael, unfortunately, I'm on my phone and not at my computer, so I can't see the reports very well on my phone screen. Nothing significant jumped out at me for March. Whitney, I think we had very few open items and, questions. March was pretty clean from my end.
Don't want to add anything? Okay.
I don't have anything to add.
and based on your moving of monies around and being paid forward and caught up by vocational rehab, or kind of our financials, the balance sheet and profit and loss, all should be in very good shape. Well, then let's, if we could, talk about the memberships, Michael. We had 4 interviews, 5 interviews.
Yes. Kathy, Paul did Callie, James, and Katie, and then you did Marcel and Lisa. And so, and just briefly going through those, most of these right here, again, when we sent this out, when we sent the request for these out, we did specify that we did need people, industry and insurance, and so pleasantly surprised that we definitely got a lot of industry, and so we won't be the same situation hopefully in the future with trying to beg people and only having one person like we were with Carla that could be the second co-chair. And so I will say that that James's interview was probably one of the coolest that I've actually been on. And the reason why is he is actually an AAC user. And it was really, it was a unique experience and one that I'm glad, that I got to participate in. And he was a very unique individual, to say the least. I also know Katie Howe. She's actually in town. She works for a company that is in St. Augustine, and so when she sent in her application, it stated St. Augustine, but she's actually here in town, and so that was, that was one of the things that I found, kind of ironic. And then Callie is from Oaksmere. One of the things I found, again, very interesting is most of the individuals that we've gotten for industry have actually been SLP. Haven't gotten any, in terms of the DME, industry. And so there was one of the, odd things that I noticed. And then with the exception of Lisa, Lisa is she is a vendor of equipment for people with visual impairments.
Right. Now, is there any overlap between these 5 people in terms of skill sets or perspective?
I'd say in looking at this, I'd say Kaylee and Katie and Callie. Imagine that. they are almost mirror images of one another, in my opinion. And being on the interviews, say, James being an AAC, being a high-end AAC user, I should say, is very impressive. And he's actually down in South Florida. And James and Marcel would come on as a group, as category 1, which is a user of assistive technology and or family member. And Marcel has been very, one of the unique things about Marcel is that he is, he is Hispanic, and that has been, one of our hardest populations to recruit, not to, signal out one minority. However, in the history of the organization, it seemed like it's just been Enrique Escon, and I giggle, but it does seem that way. In terms of Lisa, she probably has the most experience in terms of business and fundraising for nonprofits, because she had worked very extensively with multiple lighthouses for the blind.
Right. Now, do we have room for all 5? And can the budget handle all 5? Or do we need to cut one?
I'd say right now, in looking at, what we need, I think all 5 would be good. I'd have to look, but bringing all 5 of those on board, that would give us enough cushion for that 2 and 3 category. And then we would just need to look at, we wouldn't, the next round we need to add some consumers. I just don't know that number exactly. I'd have to, calculate these 5 in there. But I do know that we would probably need some consumers. These right here were the ones that we interviewed. We still have some other ones out there. And if we decide to move these forward, then my suggestion is to look at the ones that we haven't interviewed, and then to see which ones of those are consumers of assistive or users of assistive technology, and then they would need to be the priority, because we still need to get up to 51%.
Right. Well, isn't Marcel and James consumers?
They are, yeah, but I think bringing 3 on would still leave us maybe 1 to 3 short of consumers.
Okay. And can the budget, in terms of our travel and then all of that, handle all of these? Yes.
Yeah, I mean, with what we've traveled right now, I don't see any issues with that. I'm just thinking that James might, if you're looking at, James might be one of the most expensive travel ones that we have. One's here in town, so that's a wash. Lisa, I mean, I'm pretty sure, she is Lisa, and so if she had to travel, she would probably coordinate that with business. So I don't foresee any problem budgetary wise with this.
Okay. Well, how many more applicants do we have?
Let me look here real fast, because I actually have them in different folders. I actually have them scheduled. I believe it should be 7, but just in case. I know Eddie Hall is one of them. And he just emailed me today.
So,
One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
okay, will they be done? We don't have room for 11 new board members. So what's our target goal?
I'd have to look and see what. Let me go in here real fast and look, since I'm in here at the last roster that I sent over to VR. So we had those 5 there. So those would come in 2 and 3. So we had those 5 there. Hold on. I'm sorry. We had those 5 there. So 3 of them were category 2 or 3. So that's 4 there. Added 2 to consumer. That would give us 19, but our percentage for category 1 is 42. We would need to add 4 ones. We would need to add 4 users of assistive technology. And if we did that, that would be 52%.
Right. Now, right. Okay. That's a big board, guys. But that would help in terms of handling our workload.
Absolutely. I mean, absolutely, because the people that are interviewing are very eager to serve. I mean, that's one of the things that I definitely have noticed.
All right. Okay. And what's our goal to get? Can any of them, if we have made some recommendations, at least the 2 I interviewed, I definitely are for those 2, and I think they would bring some significant value.
Well, we can go ahead and, send them on to the executive committee to vote to, to send on to the board.
Well, then could we put them out there with the board member who interviewed them for recommendation by, right?
Absolutely, yes. Let's see about her. I'm just looking I'm just looking at our roster right now.
And the yellows are our advisory committee, right?
That's that's the state agency ones, yes. Now, the other thing on here too is that's what I was having to see about Liz, but I mean, in terms of, getting to 51%, I mean, Tom just well, I don't know about recently, at least within the last 18 months, did the field representative. And so, that's something that we could maybe talk to Tom about, since he's already on there, to have him be, go back to be a category 1, and then see if Phil has anybody else, because that is an option.
Right, or can't we count him as a double category?
No.
Why can't you? No.
No, the Assistive Technology Act does not allow it, nor does our bylaws.
Okay.
Yeah, we have gotten our hands slapped about that before. Prior to me, I should say. Yeah, 2 terms in the end for a law too, and so that's the other thing too, is we have a lot next year that are 2020s. Yeah,
And that
includes
me.
No, you're still 1 term.
Oh. Okay.
Tom already. So that might be good if we could talk to Phil to see, since he is rolling off in 1 year, to see if possibly get him to transfer over and then them to appoint somebody.
Right. Well, why don't you do that?
And Kent's coming off anyway, I can tell you that, because they are, Barbara has actually appointed, she's wanting to appoint a new person to serve in Kent's place, and so.
Right. And well, that would be, what's his name, the visual impairment person?
No, that she wants Karen Hagan.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, And so,
That's fine. That's her chief of staff. So,
yeah. Oh no, absolutely. That's getting her again is I mean, I was surprised when, in my talking to Barbara, I was surprised that she offered her up, and I went, "Oh yeah, Barbara, I'll take that." So,
right.
but yeah, I mean, it is good in a way that we do have some people that are terming off. We also have, I mean, we do have a couple that can be, that we possibly can dual count, or that we could, not dual count, I'm sorry, that we could ask to change their category, which,
Right.
again, by bylaws, if they decide to do that, then, the board needs to vote on that. But,
Right.
that,
Well, why don't you put that on your action item to have those discussions with some of those members?
absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I hit the Beth Meyer before, but I'll go ahead and follow up with her.
All right. And then, so let's see if we can get some of these members floated and moving, okay? Make that an action item.
Yeah, the one thing I will say this too is that with the change in Commissioner of Education, I don't have the same relationship I had with the previous one. And so I did speak with VR about that, and that these could be delayed a little bit just because the new Commissioner of Education, he has a high priority on charter schools. And right now, that's one of the biggest issues in the state budget proposal. And so I just wanted to put that out there that could be an issue in that, I know that anything that's happening between now and say June might be delayed a little bit. However, VR does give us some discretion in which we could, when we can't, they allow us to put the date that we bring people on. And basically the only thing that we need from the commissioner is approval. And so, but the date can be added, as soon as the vote takes place. And so that is something that VR has given me. And then they reiterated that when I was over meeting with them last week.
Okay, very good. Well, why don't you get those 5 members floated to the executive committee for nomination to move forward so we can get a vote done, in June, and then keep the candidates informed of the process so they know the wheels are moving.
Okay. And then the other is, after I do the numbers, you want me to go back through, the applications that we have and put as a priority, to the consumers, just to make sure we have in the pipeline to stay in the 51% threshold?
Absolutely. Right. Absolutely. And then maybe next Monday, we could get together, Michael, and talk about things going on in May.
Okay, yeah. I did send out a reminder, but yeah, next Monday should be fine.
Okay. All right. Well then, because then that way we can handle the ED evaluation, some coaching, and other things we need to be prepared for. And all of your meeting minutes and all of that stuff need to get out to your committee by, say, May 14 or so, in time for our meeting at the end of the month. Okay.
Yes.
All righty. And then again, let's confirm that the next executive committee meeting is,
that date here. It is the day after Memorial Day because it was on Memorial Day. So it's May the 28th. And then I actually put on here that sorry about that, Whitney, the finances and all the documents will be sent out on May 22nd.
okay, is there any way, okay, and that's at 3 o'clock, right?
Yes.
All right. Very good. Okay, and then is there any public comments? No public comments. Okay. Well, any last thoughts from you, Michael?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Well, then we've got some policies to go out to staff, to board members. We have board member recommendation, and you and I are getting together, and you're going to follow up and rank order our next set of interviews.
Will do.
All right. Well, congratulations, Megan. You did a great job on some of the money, and that's tremendous news.
Thank you, JR.
Well, we'll keep moving this ball forward then. Am I missing anything?
I think we're good.
Okay. Well, then I'll move to close this little briefing down, and thank you all for your time, and please get some notes out to folks and check on your Ben and Paul, because normally they're quite good at participating.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'll get with them.
Okay, and when you send out those reminders, give them by close of business when they need to get input in to demonstrate they've read and made the recommendations. Okay.
Will do.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Y'all take care.